How can animals be grouped according to body symmetry?
Symmetry refers to the arrangement of body structures in relation to the axis of the body. Most animals exhibit either radial or bilateral body symmetry. Animals such as jellyfishes, sea anemones, and starfishes have radial symmetry. In radial symmetry, the body has the general form of a wheel or cylinder, and similar structures are arranged as spokes from a central axis. The bodies of all other animals are marked by bilateral symmetry, a design in which the body has right and left halves that are mirror images of each other. A bilaterally symmetrical body plan has a top and a bottom, also known respectively as the dorsal and ventral portions of the body. It also has a front, or anterior, end and a back, or posterior, end.
What is the most widely cultivated cereal in the world?
Wheat is the most widely cultivated cereal in the world. The grain supplies a major percentage of the nutrients needed by the world's population. Wheat is one of the oldest domesticated plants, and it has been argued that it laid the foundation for Western civilization. Domesticated wheat had its origins in the Near East at least 9,000 years ago. Wheat grows best in temperate grassland biomes that receive 12 to 36 inches, 30 to 90 centimeters, of rain per year and have relatively cool temperatures. Some of the top wheat-producing countries are Argentina, Canada, China, India, the Ukraine, and the United States.
What is pitch blend?
Pitchblende is a massive variety of uraninite, or uranium oxide, found in metallic veins. It is a radioactive material and the most important ore of uranium. In 1898, Marie, 1867–1934, and Pierre, 1859–1906, Curie discovered that pitchblende contained radium, a rare element that has since been used in medicine and the sciences.
How much does a barrel of oil weigh?
A barrel of oil weighs about 306 pounds, 139 kilograms.
Who performed some of the earliest studies on digestion?
William Beaumont, 1785–1853, an army surgeon, performed some of the earliest studies on digestion. In 1822, Alexis Saint Martin, 1794–1880, was accidentally wounded by a shotgun blast. Beaumont began treatment of the wound immediately. Saint Martin's recuperation lasted nearly 3 years. and the enormous wound healed except for a small opening leading into his stomach. A fold of flesh covered this opening. When this was pushed aside, the interior of the stomach was exposed to view. Through the opening, Beaumont was able to extract and analyze gastric juice and stomach contents at various stages of digestion. Observe changes in secretions, and note the stomach's muscular movements. The results of his experiments and observations formed the basis of our modern knowledge of digestion.
What are sand dunes and how are they formed?
Mounds of wind-blown sand in deserts and coastal areas are called dunes. Winds transport grains of sand until it accumulates around obstacles to form ridges and mounds. Wind direction, the type of sand, and the amount of vegetation determine the type of dune. Dunes are named either for their shape, e.g., star dunes, and parabolic dunes, or according to their alignment with the wind, e.g., longitudinal dunes, and transverse dunes.
What is Müllerian mimicry?
Fritz Müller, 1821–1897, a German-born zoologist, described a phenomenon in 1878 in which a group of species with the same adaptations against predation was also of similar appearance. This phenomenon is now called Müllerian mimicry. Müllerian mimics include wasps and bees, all of which have similar yellow and black striped patterns that serve as a warning to potential predators.
How many bones are in the human body?
Babies are born with about 300 to 350 bones, but many of these fuse together between birth and maturity to produce an average adult total of 206. Bone counts vary according to the method used to count them. Because a structure may be treated as either multiple bones or as a single bone with multiple parts.
How is sandpaper made?
Sandpaper is a coated abrasive that consists of a flexible type backing, paper, upon which a film of adhesive holds and supports a coating of abrasive grains. Various types of resins and hide glues are used as adhesives. The first record of a coated abrasive is in 13th century China, when crushed seashells were bound to parchment using natural gums. The first known article on coated abrasives was published in 1808 and described how calc and ground pumice was mixed with varnish and spread on paper with a brush. Most abrasive papers are now made with aluminum oxide or silicon carbide. Although the term sandpapering is still used. Quartz grains are also used for wood polishing. The paper used is heavy, tough, and flexible, and the grains are bonded with a strong glue.
What is the largest group of vertebrates?
The largest group of vertebrates is fishes. They are a diverse group and include almost 25,000 species, almost as many as all the other groups of vertebrates combined. Most members of this group are osteichthyes, or bony fishes, which include bases, trout, and salmon.
Why is the first cervical vertebra, C1, called the atlas?
The first cervical vertebra is called the atlas after the Greek god Atlas, who was condemned to carry the earth and heavens on his shoulders. This vertebra has a ring-like structure with a large central opening and supports the head.
What are the major groups of organisms in the kingdom Protista?
There is little agreement among taxonomists on how to classify the protists, but they may be conveniently divided into 7 general groups that share certain characteristics of locomotion, nutrition, and reproduction.
What is the client/server principle and how does it apply to the Internet?
The client/server principle refers to the two components of a centralized computer network: client and server machines. Clients request information and servers send them the requested information. For example, when an individual uses his computer to look at a web page, his computer acts as the client, and the computer hosting the web page is the server. Browsers enable the connection between clients and servers. During the 1990s, Netscape, an outgrowth of the early browser Mosaic, and Internet Explorer were the dominant browsers. Eventually, Microsoft's Internet Explorer became the dominant browser. Other frequently used browsers are Mozilla Firefox and Safari.
What is the largest group of insects that has been identified and classified?
The largest group of insects that has been identified and classified is the order Coleoptera. Beetles, weevils, and fireflies, with some 350,000 to 400,000 species. Beetles are the dominant form of life on Earth, as 1 of every 5 living species is a beetle.
How much money can be saved by lowering the setting on a home furnace thermostat?
Studies have shown that a 5 degrees Fahrenheit reduction in the home thermostat setting for approximately 8 hours will save up to 10% in fuel costs.
Who was the first person to break the sound barrier?
On October 14, 1947, Charles E. Chuck Yeager, 1923, was the first pilot to break the sound barrier. He flew a Bell X-1, attaining a speed of 750 miles, 1,207 kilometers per hour. Mach 1.06, and an altitude of 70,140 feet, 21,379 meters, over the town of Victorville, California. The first woman to break the sound barrier was Jacqueline Cochran. C. 1906 to 1980. On May 18, 1953, she flew a North American F-86 Sabre over Edwards Air Force Base in California. Attaining the speed of 760 miles, 1,223 kilometers per hour.
What is the value of pi out to 30 digits past the decimal point?
Pi, Ti, represents the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. Used in calculating the area of a circle, tier 2, and the volume of a cylinder, tier 2h, or cone. It is a transcendental number, an irrational number with an exact value that can be measured to any degree of accuracy. But that can't be expressed as the ratio of two integers. In theory, the decimal extends into infinity, though it is generally rounded to 3.1416. The Welsh-born mathematician William Jones, 1675 to 1749, selected the Greek symbol, Ti, for pi. Rounded to 30 digits past the decimal point. It equals 3.1415926535897932384626433833279. In 1989, Gregory, 1952, and David Chudnovsky, 1947, at Columbia University in New York City calculated the value of pi to 1,011,961,691 decimal places. They performed the calculation twice on an IBM 3090 mainframe and on a Cray 2 supercomputer with matching results. In 1991, they calculated pi to 2,260,321,336 decimal places. In 1999, Yasumasa Kaneda, 1948. And Daisuke Takahashi of the University of Tokyo calculated pi out to 206,158,430,000 digits. Professor Kaneda at the University of Tokyo continues to calculate the value of pi to greater and greater digits. His laboratory's newest record, achieved in 2002 and subsequently verified, calculated pi to 1.2411 x 1012 digits, more than 1 trillion. The calculation required more than 600 hours of computing time using a Hitachi SR8000 computer with access to a memory of about 1 terabyte. Mathematicians have also calculated pi in binary format, i.e., zeros and ones. The 5 trillionth binary digit of pi was computed by Colin Percival and 25 others at Simon Fraser University. The computation took over 13,500 hours of computer time.
What do the 7.5-minute quadrangle maps represent?
One of the most popular maps of the United States Geologic Survey, USGS, is the 7.5-minute quadrangle map. Produced at a scale of 1:24,000. Each of these maps covers a four-sided area of 7.5 minutes latitude and 7.5 minutes longitude. The United States has been divided into precisely measured quadrangles. Each quadrangle in a state has a unique name. The maps of adjacent quadrangles may be combined to form a large map. There are more than 54,000 USGS topographic maps that cover the 48 contiguous states and Hawaii.
What is stardust and are we really made of it?
The heavy elements that comprise the Earth, such as iron, silicon, oxygen, and carbon, originally formed in distant stars that exploded, sending their heavy elements into space. Earth and all life on it are, in fact, recycled stellar debris. An asteroid came close to hitting Earth sometime in 2002.
What is the difference between cubic zirconium and diamonds?
Cubic zirconium is a gemstone material that is an imitation of diamonds. The word imitation is key. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission defines imitation materials as resembling the natural material in appearance only. Cubic zirconium may be cut the same way as diamonds. It is very dense and solid, weighing 1.7 times more than a diamond of the same millimeter size.
What are the largest and smallest aerial spider webs?
The largest aerial webs are spun by the tropical orb weavers of the genus Nephila, which produce webs that measure up to 18.9 feet, 6 meters, in circumference. The smallest webs are produced by the species Glyphosis cottoni. Their webs cover an area of about 0.75 square inch, 4.84 square centimeters.
What is Excelsior?
Excelsior is a trade name dating from the mid-19th century for the curly, fine wood shavings used as packing material when shipping breakable items. It is also used as a cushioning and stuffing material. Poplar, aspen, basswood or cottonwood are woods that are often made into excelsior.
What is the most commonly used renewable energy source?
Hydroelectric power is the most common renewable energy source. Based on consumption. Hydroelectric power accounts for 34% of the total amount of renewable energy resources. The capacity for hydroelectric power is about 95,000 megawatts. Hydropower facilities in the United States can generate enough power to supply 28 million households, or the equivalent of nearly 500 million barrels of oil. In 2008 it accounted for 6% of total electricity generation and 67% of generation from renewables.
What are the functions of the muscular system?
Muscles are identified as being voluntary muscles or involuntary muscles. The skeletal muscles are called voluntary muscles because the person controls their use. They are used to move the various parts of the body. Smooth muscles, found in the stomach and intestinal walls, vein and artery walls, and in various internal organs, are called involuntary muscles, because they are not generally controlled by the person. The cardiac muscles, or the heart muscles, are also involuntary muscles.
What is the toxic release inventory, TRI?
TRI is a government-mandated, publicly available compilation of information on the release of nearly 650 individual toxic chemicals and toxic chemical categories by manufacturing facilities in the United States. The law requires manufacturers to state the amounts of chemicals they release directly to air, land, or water, or that they transfer to off-site facilities that treat or dispose of wastes. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency compiles these reports into an annual inventory and makes the information available in a computerized database. In 2008, 21,695 facilities released 3.9 billion pounds, 1.8 billion kilograms, of toxic chemicals into the environment. The total surface water discharges amounted to 246,321,372 pounds, 111,729,495 kilograms. While 1,144,615,081 pounds, 519,188,667 kilograms, were emitted into the air. 1,786,070,607 pounds, 810,148,000 kilograms, were released on site to land. And 196,339,106 pounds, 89,057,920 kilograms, were injected into underground wells. The total amount of toxic chemicals released in 2008 was 6%. £257 million, 116.5 million kilograms, lower than the amount released in 2007.
Why do birds migrate annually?
Migratory behavior in birds is inherited, however. Birds will not migrate without certain physiological and environmental stimuli. In the late summer, the decrease in sunlight stimulates the pituitary gland and the adrenal gland of migrating birds, causing them to produce the hormones prolactin and corticosterone respectively. These hormones in turn cause the birds to accumulate large amounts of fat just under the skin, providing them with enough energy for the long migratory flights. The hormones also cause the birds to become restless just prior to migration. The exact time of departure, however, is dictated not only by the decreasing sunlight and hormonal changes, but also by such conditions as the availability of food and the onset of cold weather. The major wintering areas for North American migrating birds are the southern United States and Central America. Migrating ducks follow four major flyways south: the Atlantic Flyway, the Mississippi Flyway, the Central Flyway, and the Pacific Flyway. Some bird experts propose that the birds return north to breed for several reasons. 1. Birds return to nest because there is a huge insect supply for their young. 2. The higher Earth's latitude in the summer in the northern hemisphere. The longer the daylight available to the parents to find food for their young. 3. Less competition exists for food and nesting sites in the north. 4. In the north, there are fewer mammal predators for nesting birds, which are particularly vulnerable during the nesting stage. 5. Birds migrate south to escape the cold weather, and they return north when the weather is more temperate.
How can pets be treated to remove skunk odor?
From a pet store, purchase one of the products specifically designed to counteract skunk odor. Most of these are of the enzyme or bacterial enzyme variety and can be used without washing the pet first. A dog may also be given a bath with tomato juice, diluted vinegar, or Nuthrolium alpha, or you could try mint mouthwash, aftershave, or soap and water.
What are bryophytes and where are they found?
Mosses, liverworts, and hornworts, collectively known as bryophytes, are often found in moist environments. However, there are species that inhabit almost all environments. From hot, dry deserts to the coldest regions of Antarctica. They are most noticeable when they grow in a dense mass. They are generally small, compact plants that rarely grow to more than 8 inches, 20 centimeters, tall. They have parts that appear leaf-like, stem-like, and root-like, and lack vascular tissue, xylem and phloem.
Why does excessive exercise cause muscles to become stiff and sore?
During vigorous exercise, the circulatory system cannot supply oxygen to muscle fibers quickly enough. In the absence of oxygen, the muscle cells begin to produce lactic acid, which accumulates in the muscle. It is this buildup of lactic acid that causes soreness and stiffness.
What is cubic zirconium?
Cubic zirconium was discovered in 1937 by two German mineralogists, M. V. Stackelberg and K. Chudoba. It became popular with jewelry designers in the 1970s after Soviet scientists under the direction of V. Osaka learned how to grow the mineral in the Lebedev Physical Institute laboratory. Most of the cubic zirconium on the market is chemically composed of zirconium oxide and yttrium oxide. The two compounds are melted together at a very high temperature, almost 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit 2,760 degrees Celsius, using the skull melt method. This method uses a radiofrequency generator to heat the zirconium oxide. A careful cooling of the mixture produces the flawless crystals that become cubic zirconia gemstones.
How does a rock differ from a mineral?
Mineralogists use the term mineral for a substance that has all four of the following features. It must be found in nature, it must be made up of substances that were never alive, organic. It has the same chemical makeup wherever it is found, and its atoms are arranged in a regular pattern to form solid crystals. Although rocks are sometimes described as an aggregate or combination of one or more minerals, geologists extend the definition to include clay, loose sand, and certain limestones.
Who discovered the principle of buoyancy?
Buoyancy was first discovered by the Greek mathematician Archimedes, c. 287 to 212 BCE. The famous story recounts how the king of Syracuse, Hieron II, c. 306 c. 215 BCE, asked Archimedes to verify that his crown was made of pure gold without destroying the crown. When Archimedes entered his bath, he noticed that the water overflowed the tub. He realized that the volume water that flowed out of the bath had to be equal to the volume of his own body that was immersed in the bath. Shouting "Eureka!" he ran through the streets of Syracuse announcing he had found a method to determine whether the king's crown was made of pure gold. He could measure the amount of water that was displaced by a block of pure gold of the same weight as the crown. If the crown was made of pure gold, it would displace the same amount of water as the block of gold. The principle of buoyancy, also known as Archimedes' principle, states that the buoyant force acting on an object placed in a fluid is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object.
When and where will the next 10 total solar eclipses occur?
The next total solar eclipse in the United States, August 21, 2017, will sweep a path 70 miles. 113 kilometers, wide from Salem, Oregon, to Charleston, South Carolina.
What is the difference between a domain and a kingdom?
A domain is a taxonomic category above the kingdom level. The three domains are bacteria, archaea, and eukarya, which are the major categories of life. Essentially, domains are superkingdoms. A kingdom is a taxonomic group that contains one or more phyla. The four traditional kingdoms of eukarya include Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia.
How did geology influence Darwin?
While traveling aboard the HMS Beagle, Charles Darwin read The Principles of Geology by Charles Lyell, 1797–1875. Catastrophism was the popular theory of the time about the forces driving geological change. Lyell's theory suggested that geologic change was not solely the result of random catastrophes. Rather, he proposed that geologic formations were most often the result of everyday occurrences like storms, waves, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes that could be observed within an individual lifetime. This idea, that the same geologic processes at work today were also present during our evolutionary past, is known as uniformitarian. This conclusion also led Lyell and, before him, James Hutton, 1726–1797, to suggest that Earth must be much older than the previously accepted age of 6,000 years. Because these uniform processes would have required many millions of years to generate the structures he observed. Reading Lyell's work gave Darwin a new perspective as he traveled through South America and sought a mechanism by which he could explain his thoughts on evolution.
Who was Darwin's bulldog?
Thomas Huxley, 1825–1895, was a staunch supporter of Darwin's work. In fact, Huxley wrote a favorable review of Darwin's On the Origin of Species that appeared soon after its publication. When the firestorm of controversy began after the appearance of Darwin's book, Huxley was ready and able to defend Darwin, whose chronic public reticence about his theories was at that time exacerbated by illness. Huxley's defense of Darwin was so vigorous during a debate with Bishop Samuel Wilberforce, 1805–1873. at the British Association for the Advancement of Science in 1860 that he earned the title Darwin's Bulldog.
How is senescence defined?
Senescence, from the Latin senex, meaning old, is the process of aging. Physiological changes continue to occur even after complete physical growth is attained at maturity. As people age, the body is less able to and less efficient in adapting to environmental changes. Maintaining homeostasis becomes harder and harder, especially when the body is under stress. Ultimately, death occurs when the combination of stresses cannot be overcome by the body's existing homeostatic mechanisms.
Which plant has the deepest root system?
Roots of the desert shrub mesquite, Prosope juliflora, have been found growing nearly 175 feet, 53.5 meter, deep near Tucson, Arizona.
Where are asteroids found?
The asteroids, also called the minor planets, are smaller than any of the 8 major planets in the solar system and are not satellites of any major planet. The term asteroid means star-like because asteroids appear to be points of light when seen through a telescope. Most asteroids are located between Mars and Jupiter, between 2.1 and 3.3 AUS, astronomical units, from the Sun. Ceres, the largest and first to be discovered, was found by Giuseppe Piazzi on January 1, 1801, and has a diameter of 582 miles, 936 kilometers. A second asteroid, Pallas, was discovered in 1802. Since then, astronomers have identified more than 18,000 asteroids and have established orbits for about 5,000 of them. Some of these have diameters of only 0.62 mile, 1 kilometer. Originally, astronomers thought the asteroids were remnants of a planet that had been destroyed. Now they believe asteroids to be material that never became a planet. Possibly because it was affected by Jupiter's strong gravity. Not all asteroids are in this main asteroid belt. 3 groups of asteroids, the near-Earth asteroids, NEAs, reside in the inner solar system. The Aten asteroids have orbits that lie primarily inside Earth's orbit. However, at their farthest point from the Sun, these asteroids may cross Earth's orbit. The Apollo asteroids cross Earth's orbit, some come even closer than the Moon. The Amor asteroids cross the orbit of Mars, and some come close to Earth's orbit. The Trojan asteroids move in virtually the same orbit as Jupiter but at points 60 degrees ahead or 60 degrees behind the planet. In 1977 Charles Cowell discovered an object now known as Chiron orbiting between Saturn and Uranus. Originally catalogued as an asteroid, Chiron was later observed to have a coma, a gaseous halo, and it may be reclassified as a comet.
What is the difference between type I and type 2 diabetes?
Type I is insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, IDDM. And type 2 is non-insulin-dependent diabetes mellitus, NIDDM. In type I diabetes there is an absolute deficiency of insulin. It accounts for approximately 10% of all cases of diabetes and has a greater prevalence in children. In type 2 diabetes, insulin secretion may be normal, but the target cells for insulin are less responsive than normal. The incidence of type 2 diabetes increases greatly after age 40 and is normally associated with obesity and lack of exercise as well as genetic predisposition. The symptoms of type 2 diabetes are usually less severe than type I, but long-term complications are similar in both types.
What is the most famous volcano?
The eruption of Mt. Vesuvius in Italy on August 79 CE is perhaps the most famous historical volcanic eruption. Vesuvius had been dormant for generations. When it erupted, entire cities were destroyed, including Pompeii, Stabia, and Herculaneum. Pompeii and Stabia were buried under ashes while Herculaneum was buried under a mud flow.
What is the composition of synthetic soil?
Synthetic soil is composed of a variety of organic and inorganic materials. Inorganic substances used include pumice, calc inert clay, cinders, vermiculite, perlite, and sand. Vermiculite and perlite are used for water retention and drainage. Organic materials used include wood residues, manure, sphagnum moss, plant residues, and peat. Sphagnum peat moss is also helpful for moisture retention and lowers the pH of the mixture. Lime may be added to offset the acidity of peat. Synthetic soil may also be referred to as growing medium, soil mixes, potting mixture, plant substrate, greenhouse soil, potting soil, and amended soil. Most synthetic soils are deficient in important mineral nutrients, which can be added during the mixing process or with water.
What are the main functions of the plasma membrane?
The main purpose of the plasma membrane is to provide a barrier that keeps cellular components inside the cell while simultaneously keeping unwanted substances from entering the cell. The membrane allows essential nutrients to be transported into the cell and aids in the removal of waste products from the cell. The specific functions of a membrane depend on the kinds of phospholipids and proteins present in the plasma membrane.
Is coffee native to Colombia or Brazil?
Although premium coffee is today grown in the mountains of Central and South America, the coffee tree, Coffea arabica, is native to Ethiopia. Coffee was widely used in the Arab world before its introduction to European society in the 17th century. North and South American coffee plantations were started in the 18th century.
What are the four major divisions of chemistry?
Chemistry has traditionally been divided into organic, inorganic, analytical, and physical chemistry. Organic chemistry is the study of compounds that contain carbon. More than 90% of all known chemicals are organic. Inorganic chemistry is the study of compounds of all elements except carbon. Analytical chemists determine the 7 structure and composition of compounds and mixtures. They also develop and operate instruments and techniques for carrying out the analyses. Physical chemists use the principles of physics to understand chemical phenomena.
What is the largest number mentioned in the Bible?
The largest number specifically named in the Bible is 1,000,000, i.e., a million. It is found in 2 Chronicles 14:9.
What is anorexia?
Anorexia simply means a loss of appetite. Anorexia nervosa is a psychological disturbance that is characterized by an intense fear of being fat. It usually affects teenage or young adult women. This persistent fat image, however untrue in reality, leads the patient to self-imposed starvation and emaciation. Extreme thinness, to the point where 1/3 of the body weight is lost. There are many theories on the causes of this disease, which is difficult to treat and can be fatal. Between 5 and 10% of patients hospitalized for anorexia nervosa later die from starvation or suicide. Symptoms include a 25% or greater weight loss, for no organic reason, coupled with a morbid dread of being fat, an obsession with food, an avoidance of eating, compulsive exercising and restlessness. Binge eating followed by induced vomiting, and or use of laxatives or diuretics.
Which tree species from the United States have lived the longest?
of the 850 different species of trees in the United States. The oldest species is the bristlecone pine, Pinus longeva. This species grows in the deserts of Nevada and Southern California, particularly in the White Mountains. Some of these trees are believed to be over 4,600 years old. The potential lifespan of these pines is estimated to be 5,500 years. But potential age of the bristlecone pine is very young when compared to the oldest surviving species in the world, the maidenhair tree, Ginkgo biloba, of China. This species of tree first appeared during the Jurassic era, some 200 million years ago. Also called Iko, or the Ginkgo, meaning silver apricot. This species has been cultivated in Japan since 1100 BCE.
How many layers does Earth's atmosphere contain?
The atmosphere, the skin of gas that surrounds Earth, consists of 5 layers that are differentiated by temperature. The troposphere is the lowest level, it averages about 7 miles, 11 kilometers. In thickness, varying from 5 miles, 8 kilometers, at the poles to 10 miles, 16 kilometers, at the equator. Most clouds and weather form in this layer. Temperature decreases with altitude in the troposphere. The stratosphere ranges between 7 and 30 miles, 11 to 48 kilometers, above Earth's surface. The ozone layer, important because it absorbs most of the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation, is located in this band. Temperatures rise slightly with altitude to a maximum of about 32 degrees Fahrenheit 0 degrees Celsius. The mesosphere, above the stratosphere, extends from 30 to 55 miles, 48 to 85 kilometers, above Earth. Temperatures decrease with altitude to minus 130 degrees Fahrenheit minus 90 degrees Celsius. 45 The thermosphere, also known as the heterosphere, is between 55 to 435 miles, 85 to 700 kilometers. Temperatures in this layer range to 2,696 degrees Fahrenheit 1,475 degrees Celsius. The exosphere, beyond the thermosphere, applies to anything above 435 miles, 700 kilometers. In this layer, temperature no longer has any meaning. The ionosphere is a region of the atmosphere that overlaps the others, reaching from 30 to 250 miles, 48 to 402 kilometers. In this region, the air becomes ionized, electrified, from the sun's ultraviolet rays. This area affects the transmission and reflection of radio waves. It is divided into 3 regions, the D region, at 35 to 55 miles 56 to 88 kilometers. The E region, heaviside canally layer, 55 to 95 miles 88 to 153 kilometers. And the F region, Appleton layer, 95 to 250 miles 153 to 402 kilometers.
How is DNA organized in the nucleus?
Within the nucleus, DNA is organized with proteins called hist-1s, into a fibrous material called chromatin. As a cell prepares to divide or reproduce, the thin chromatin fibers condense, becoming thick enough to be seen as separate structures, which are called chromosomes.
How does a nematocyst work?
A nematocyst is a specialized organelle found in all cnidarians. Each nematocyst features a coiled, thread-like tube lined with a series of barbed spines. The nematocyst is used to capture prey and may also be used for defense purposes. When it is triggered to discharge, the extremely high osmotic pressure within the nematocyst, 140 atmospheres, causes water to rush into the capsule, increasing the hydrostatic pressure and expelling the thread with great force. The barb instantly penetrates the prey, stinging it with a highly toxic protein.
How much lymph is in the body?
The body contains approximately 1 to 2 quarts, 1 or 2 liters of lymph, which accounts for 1 to 3% of body weight.
What natural resources are saved by recycling paper?
One ton, 907 kilograms, of recycled waste paper would save an average of 7,000 gallons, 26,460 liters of water, 3.3 cubic yards, 2.5 cubic meters, of landfill space, 3 barrels of oil, 17 trees, and 4,000 kilowatt-hours of electricity, enough energy to power the average home for 6 months. It would also reduce air pollution by 74%.
What are Napier's bones?
In the 16th century, the Scottish mathematician John Napier, 1550 to 1617, Baron of Merchiston, developed a method of simplifying the processes of multiplication and division. Using exponents of 10, which Napier called logarithms, commonly abbreviated as logs. Using this system, multiplication is reduced to addition and division to subtraction. For example, the log of 100, 102, is 2, the log of 1000, 103, is 3, the multiplication of 100 by 1000, 100x 1000 equals 100,000, can be accomplished by adding their logs. Log 100, 1000, equals log 100, plus log 1000, equals 2 plus 3 equals 5 equals log 100,000. Napier published his methodology in a description of the admirable table of logarithms. In 1614. In 1617 he published a method of using a device, made up of a series of rods in a frame, marked with the digits 1 through 9, to multiply and divide using the principles of logarithms. This device was commonly called Napier's bones or Napier's rods.
What are Kuiper belt objects?
Kuiper belt objects, KBOs, are, as their name implies, objects that originate from or orbit in the Kuiper belt. Only one KBO was known for more than 60 years, Pluto. Many KBOs have been discovered since 1992, however. And the current estimate is that there are millions, if not billions, of KBOs. KBOs are basically comets without tails, icy dirt balls that have collected together over billions of years. If they get large enough, such as Pluto did, they evolve as other massive planet-like bodies do, forming dense cores that have a different physical composition than the mantle or crust above it. Most short-period comets, those with relatively short orbital times of a few years to a few centuries, are thought to originate from the Kuiper belt.
Which trees are members of the rose family, Rosaceae?
The apple, pear, peach, cherry, plum, mountain ash, and hawthorn trees are members of the Rosaceae family.
How did the protist Phytophthora infestans influence Irish history?
Phytophthora infestans, one of the potato's most lethal pathogens, causes the late blight of potato disease. This pathogen was responsible for the Irish potato famine of 1845 to 1849. P. Infestans causes the leaves and stem of the potato plant to decay, eventually causing the tuber to stop growing. In addition, the tubers are attacked by the pathogen and rot. It has been estimated that during the potato famine 1.5 million Irish people emigrated from their country and moved to various parts of the world, but most immigrated to the United States. An estimated 400,000 people perished during the famine due to malnutrition.
What is spam?
Spam, also called junk email, is unsolicited email. Spam is an annoyance to the recipient and may contain computer viruses or spyware. It often advertises products that are usually not of interest to the recipient and are oftentimes vulgar in content. Estimates suggest that as many as 1 billion spam messages are sent daily. Many email programs have spam filters or blockers to detect spam. messages and either delete them or send them to the junk mailbox.
How do birds learn to sing the distinctive melody of their respective species?
The ability to learn the proper song appears to be influenced by both heredity and experience. Scientists have speculated that a bird is genetically programmed with the ability to recognize the song of its own species and with the tendency to learn its own song. As a bird begins to sing, it goes through a stage of practice, which closely resembles the babbling of human infants, through which it perfects the notes and structure of its distinctive song. In order to produce a perfect imitation, the bird must apparently hear the song from an adult during its first months of life.
What do the octane numbers of gasoline mean?
The octane number is a measure of the gasoline's ability to resist engine knock. Two test fuels, normal heptane and isooctane, are blended for test results to determine octane number. Normal heptane has an octane number of 0 and isooctane a value of 100. Gasolines are then compared with these test blends to find one that makes the same knock as the test fuel. The octane rating of the gasoline under testing is the percentage by volume of isooctane required to produce the same knock. For example, if the test blend has 85% isooctane, the gasoline has an octane rating of 85. The octane rating that appears on gasoline pumps is an average of research octane determined in laboratory tests with engines running at low speeds, and motor octane, determined at higher speeds.
What is reflexology?
Reflexology is the application of specific pressures to reflex points in the hands and feet. The reflex points relate to every organ and every part of the body. Massaging of the reflex points is done to prevent or cure diseases. Believed to have been used in Asian cultures as long as 2,000 years ago. Reflexology was introduced to the United States at the turn of the century by Dr. William Fitzgerald, 1872–1942, and Eunice D. Ingham, 1889–1974. Today nearly 25,000 certified practitioners can be found throughout the world.
What does DOS stand for?
DOS stands for Disk Operating System. A program that controls the computer's transfer of data to and from a hard or floppy disk. Frequently, it is combined with the main operating system. The operating system was originally developed at Seattle Computer Products as SCP-DOS. When IBM decided to build a personal computer and needed an operating system, It chose the SCP-DOS after reaching an agreement with the Microsoft Corporation to produce the actual operating system. Under Microsoft, SC-DOS became MS-DOS, which IBM referred to as PC-DOS. Personal computer, which everyone eventually simply called DOS.
How does the temperature of the Earth change as one goes deeper underground?
The Earth's temperature increases with depth. Measurements made in deep mines and drill holes indicate that the rate of temperature increase varies from place to place in the world, ranging from 59 degrees to 167 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 75 degrees Celsius, per kilometer in depth. Actual temperature measurements cannot be made beyond the deepest drill holes, which are a little more than 6.2 miles, 10 kilometers, deep. Estimates suggest that the temperatures at Earth's center can reach values of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit 2,760 degrees Celsius or higher.
Which woods are used for railroad ties?
Many species of wood are used for railroad ties, but the most common are Douglas fir, hemlock, southern pine, and a variety of oaks and gums.
What is feces?
Feces, from the Latin fex, meaning dregs, is the remaining portion of undigested food. Approximately 5.3 ounces, 150 grams, of feces are produced daily. Feces normally consists of 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, of water and 1.7 ounces, 50 grams, of solid material. The solid material is composed of fat, nitrogen, bile pigments. Undigested foods such as cellulose, and other waste products from the blood of intestinal wall. The normal brown color of feces is caused by bilirubin. Blood and foods containing a large amount of iron will darken the feces. Excessive fat from the diet causes feces to be a more pale color.
When did the last passenger pigeon die?
At one time, 200 years ago, the passenger pigeon, Ectopus migratorius, was the world's most abundant bird. Although the species was found only in eastern North America, it had a population of 3 to 5 billion birds, 25% of the North American land bird population. Overhunting caused a chain of events that reduced their numbers below minimum threshold for viability. In the 1890s, several states passed laws to protect the pigeon, but it was too late. The last known wild bird was shot in 1900. The last passenger pigeon, named Martha, died on September 1, 1914, in the Cincinnati Zoo. In a span of just 200 years, the passenger pigeon passed from the world's most abundant bird species into extinction.
What are Cuisenaire rods?
The Cuisenaire method is a teaching system used to help young students independently discover basic mathematical principles. Developed by Émile Georges Cuisenaire, 1891 to 1976, a Belgian schoolteacher. The method uses rods of 10 different colors and lengths that are easy to handle. The rods help students understand mathematical principles rather than merely memorizing them. They are also used to teach elementary arithmetic properties such as associative, commutative, and distributive properties.
How does the enhanced Fujita scale differ from the original Fujita scale?
The National Weather Service adapted the enhanced Fujita F scale on February 1, 2007 to rate tornadoes. The enhanced scale has 6 categories, F0 to F5, representing increasing levels of damage. It was revised to better estimate wind speeds by considering different types of construction and low populated areas with few structures. The enhanced scale offers more detailed descriptions of potential damages by using 28 damage indicators based on different building structures and vegetation.